Take a person, take a story, take you on a journey. It's your take.
On today's Your Take, I'm joined by a multi-instrumentalist and singer who plays guitar, piano, bass, ukulele, and mandolin. My guest started her professional music career at 17, playing in bands and performing in recording studios. Her life was changed when she saw Jimi Hendrix on television, who she cites as a major influence, along with Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, Eric Clapton, Chet Atkins, Eddie Cochran, Scotty and Steve Crooper. My guest is endorsed by Gretsch Guitars, has recently been working on movie soundtracks, and has toured around the US with world-renowned acts like Chuck Berry, Joe Strummer, Dwight Yoakum, and Prince. My guest is an American musician, Jessica Kaczmarek. We discussed Jessica's upbringing and her early discovery of music, how Jimi Hendrix televised performance rocked her world, the life of a professional musician, her endorsement from Gretsch Guitars, and touring on the live music circuit with legendary names. Good evening from the UK. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Thanks for talking to me from over across the pond.
And how's life in Los Angeles?
It's pretty good. I mean, the weather is great. You can't complain about that. So it's pretty nice. Can't complain. I dig it. Well, I guess that's why I'm still here. So it's all right.
From the kind of long introduction, you've had an established musical career and learning music from a very young age. And I'm interested to talk about, I guess, your musical journey from the start to becoming a very established musician. But Jessica, I wanted to kind of go back, first of all, to the very beginning and kind of find out kind of a bit more about you, where you were born. Can I ask you where you were born, a little bit of background on your parents, what they did for a living, and do you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I was born here in California, Southern California, over in Whittier Town, and lived here my whole life. My parents, my dad was a meat salesman in the meat industry, restaurant business. And my mom, when she was younger, she was a secretary, and then she got kind of into financial planning and stuff like that. And yes, I do. I have two siblings. I have an older sister and older brother. I am the baby. So they all live far away, spread out. My sister, as we were talking about earlier, she lives in London. And I have a brother who lives in Canada. So I've spent a lot of time in Canada and a couple of trips to London, as we were talking about earlier.
A family that's kind of spread out globally, and I kind of want to come on early to establishing this kind of musical background. And I wanted to ask you, did you come from a musical family, and what sort of music was being played in the household when you were young? And away from your sort of family's musical tastes, what music were you into as a teenager? And did you kind of go to many concerts and festivals?
Yeah, my parents, my mom played music. So she was a piano player, and she loved music and loved piano. And that's actually the reason why I play music, is because of my mom. She wanted her daughters to play piano. So we started on piano, whether we wanted to or not, we started on it. And I remember probably my dad saying, or maybe it was my mom, I don't know, but saying, you're going to thank us one day for making you play. Because, you're a kid, you don't want to do lessons. You don't want to do things you don't want to do. Piano, maybe not the most fun thing, but it's true. So that kind of got me into playing music. I'm sure I would have discovered it somewhere down the road. I think that's probably was just going to be my path, whether I like it or not, but I like it, so it's okay. But so I started with that, and My dad strums a little guitar, but that's it. But my mom played piano. She played not professional or anything, but she was a real avid player. And there was always music playing with my mom. Is Everly Brothers, who I love very much. The harmonies that they do are just like heartbreaking, and which really touches me in a deep level. And Elvis, big Elvis fan. I'd hear Elvis all the time. Good looking man, great performer, great singer, great everything. There's, I think, one of the best things to ever come out of music is Elvis Presley for me. Of course, there's other people, but for him, he's kind of got it all. He's quite the package. And just a lot of 50s stuff, Ricky Nelson, things like that. My dad was into the country and 70s country, Alabama. Not really a fan of that, but the stuff that he did play was like Dolly Parton. And I'm a fan of Dolly. I think she's pretty amazing, super amazing, and a great person too, a great philanthropist. And Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash and stuff like that. My sister played a bit of piano. My brother never, I don't think he went near, maybe he went by a piano but never played one. So I'm the only one who seems to play. I've got some other relatives in my family who play as well at it. A cousin who used to make handmade guitars on the East Coast. He doesn't do that anymore. But so yeah, I guess I'm kind of more the one who's gone down the road of music and really tried to take it somewhere, and felt a real affinity to it since I was a kid. And I started on piano and I got tired of it, and my mom saw that I was getting tired of it, and she said to me, look, I see you're tired of playing piano. I don't want you to stop music, because she loves music so much she wanted me to play. And she said, is there another instrument you'd like to play? And I said, yes, guitar, like without any hesitation. I just I had seen Hendrix on, like, there was a channel, a cable channel, A&E, Arts and Entertainment, which I'd watch all the time because it's all creative stuff, artists, musicians, everything, all the stuff I love. And there was a movie just called Jimi Hendrix, and I'm sure you could still check it out on YouTube or something, but they would play it all the time and I'd watch it. It was interviews of people who knew him and then footage, and I just saw him performing Monterey Pop, where he lights his guitar on fire, and I just thought, that's the coolest thing. I want to do that. So that's what made me really want to play guitar, was seeing Jimi Hendrix for the first time. And then from there, it really felt like the guitar felt like an extension of my body. It just fit, it just felt right. Piano felt kind of clumsy. It felt a little weird. You have to change your fingering for different scales. The guitar, just something about it just really felt, I think it maybe too, because it's close to your body. It feels like it's kind of a part of you. And I just sit in my room and practice for like 5 hours a day, 6. I would just play all day, all the time. I was obsessed with it. Still am, but yeah.
It's interesting. You've cited so many names that particularly resonate with me, because that was kind of the music I was growing up, particularly the 50s artists you mentioned, and you mentioned Elvis, who kind of started the whole kind of musical revolution really from the 50s onwards. And Ricky Nelson was somebody who was constantly played in the house, and my dad had fond memories of seeing Rick Nelson before he died. I kind of wanted to steer a little bit away from the music and come back to it, and kind of, you said that you had this obsession for music and particularly the guitar, and I kind of wanted to move on to kind of schooling, your school years. Do you have fond memories of your time at school, and were you kind of a natural academic, or were you more interested in simply playing a guitar and following your kind of ultimate ambition to be a musician or a guitar player?
I was more interested in leaving school than being in school. I'm sure I could have been academic, but I just I didn't really like being somewhere and not being able to leave. To me it felt like a caged animal. so I didn't really spend a lot of time there, but I did fine. I got through what I needed to get through. My grades were decent enough, but I much more enjoyed after school and going to friends' houses and playing music and learning guitar. But not that I don't like school at all, because I actually went to college, Cal State Fullerton, and I love that because it wasn't, you could learn what you want to learn. There's no time frame. If you can't make it to school, it's okay, because you're an adult and you can make your own decisions. Other people aren't making them for you. So for college, it was all like straight A's and maybe a couple B's and stuff like that. So I don't think it was a matter of applying myself or anything. It's just I didn't really like the circumstances of your grade schooling process and all that stuff. So that's kind of how that went.
I wanted to come back to a particular moment which you've mentioned in our conversation, because I think it's a key one, and that's kind of this moment where you saw an old Jimi Hendrix live performance, which you mentioned. I think it was at Monterey, a famous concert.
Monterey.
You said, yeah, and sorry, you constantly went back to that concert and rewatched it. Is it fair to say that by seeing Hendrix play, it kind of introduced you to an endless list of guitarists? And which guitarist did you discover through Hendrix, and why? And which do you still listen to today and are still influenced by?
Oh, for sure. I mean, listening to him, it made me delve into all the blues influences, the things that influenced him. I started listening to Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson. I had already liked Eric Clapton, already knew about him and dug his style of playing. So that just got me into, well, okay, he's really great. I love what he's doing, and he's mentioned these bands. So I want to know about all these people who came before him and where these influences come from. And that just took me down a rabbit hole of just amazing blues musicians, not even just guitar players, but like Howlin' Wolf. As somebody I listen to this day. I just love the rawness of his singing, and his playing and his musicality. It's just got edge, it's got dirt, and that's what I like about it. I like things that are a little dangerous, I mean, not always like, it's not like a life philosophy for me, but as far as music, I like kind of unpredictability and that kind of rawness. I do enjoy stuff that's polished, but to a certain extent, there's got to be that feel, there's got to be that life. And a lot of those early blues musicians, that's what they were all about. There wasn't anything there's not pedal boards, there's not like Pro Tools, whatever. It's just you're sitting down with a guitar and you're just gonna lay down that track. Everybody's in the same room and just record the atmosphere that's there. So that took me down that road, and it got me into other things too, like jazz, a lot of jazz. Wes Montgomery, which was one of my favorite guitar players. Even into like gypsy jazz, like Django Reinhardt, and just amazing guitar players, Charlie Christian. These people who are just mind-blowingly good, and you can hear when you listen to them how many hours and hours they put into what they're doing, and that's why they are the greats. And so those are people that I definitely got into just from hearing Hendrix.
Some tremendous names that you've listed, and so far you've spoken about the family connection to music. You've spoken about the many influences, but particularly Hendrix. I kind of want to move on and talk about the actual career as a professional musician. And I wanted to ask you, how did you go about pursuing a career as a professional musician? And can you tell us what the Los Angeles and Orange County music scene was like at the time? And can you tell us about some of the bands you perform with and what you learned musically and professionally from those very kind of early experiences?
Yeah, like I said, music just seemed to be the path that I was going to go on. I just knew I loved it, and just things just start kind of falling into place. I think when you're kind of going the way that you should be going, at least at whatever time period you are in your life. And that's just how things kind of came together. And I met my first band, real band that I played in. It was a garage rock, 1960s garage rock, kind of surfy, loungy, kind of alternative-y kind of thing. It was just like it was like a Molotov cocktail that was about to be. It was, if you saw the band, you kind of know the vibe of it. But yeah, so I met them at a party at a friend's house, and they set their drum kit on fire, and I said, okay, I really like this band. I guess I don't have a thing with fire, apparently, not like in front of me, but you know, like I don't know. But so they set the drum.
Blame Hendrix. It all comes back to the Hendrix connection.
Like I have a primal thing. Like if you're gonna do something that's pretty crazy, then I like you. I guess is the mentality I have. So they almost set the wall on fire of the house party, and they had to take the drums outside. And my friend was really good friends with the band and the guitar player. And they're all a bunch of gentlemen. And she went over to him. I think I was about 18 at the time, 17. And she said, hey, my friend Jessica plays guitar. Could you play a guitar on the break, I guess, until the drum kit stopped burning? I said, yeah, whatever. I don't care. She could play. Go ahead. Is a girl, sure, why not? Just play, whatever. So I go and I start playing, and they're all in the kitchen, and I just slowly see their heads popping around like, who's that? What is that? And then the singer actually came out, and he picked up upright bass, and he starts playing with me, I think. And I look at him, and I'm kind of like, what key are you in? And classic line of my old singer, I said, baby, I'm in all the keys. And then he just smiled at me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I just looked at him, and I just said, you're a really good bass player. And then he went, thanks. And then he told me later, I realized that you were being sarcastic, because he was just not anywhere near what I was doing. He couldn't play bass. He just picked it up and started. So that was kind of funny. So then I joined the band from there and stayed with them for a long time. And then a rockabilly band that would play at Linda's Doll Hut in Orange County, which was kind of a meeting place for everybody in the Orange County scene, like late 90s, even before I was still in like, you know, junior high and stuff, but it was like early 90s. People were playing there, like Brian Setzer had done some shows there. A lot of really big names were over there, and she knew them all. Linda, she's got a heart of gold, one of the best people. She knows everybody in its industry, and it was her place. And so when I kind of came around, it was late 90s, early 2000s, and everybody knew everybody. That's the place you went, you know, to see your friends, to see your bands, you know, your friends' bands play. You walk in that, it was small, and it was called the Doll Hut for the reason, because it was probably the small, say, size of like maybe a 1-bedroom apartment, and probably not as nice as a 1-bedroom apartment, but I guess that's kind of the charm of it. And you'd walk in the door, and you'd see all your friends, and you'd be somebody's band that you know, and they're just killing it, just right there, you know, no stage, just raw, you know. And I guess another element I like, raw. So there was a rockabilly band playing there that they would put my band that I was playing with on the rockabilly nights, which we were not rockabilly. We had like one song that was kind of rockabilly, so they put us with them. And the rockabilly people didn't really like us, because they're like, well, that's not rockabilly. We don't want to hear rockabilly, you know. But so I got to know the band that I ended up playing with, Russell Scott and the Red Hots, which Russell had been a name in the LA and Orange County music scene since 80s. He was friends with Brian Setzer, all those guys. You know, he knew everybody in the scene. Everybody knows Russell, and he's an amazing singer, amazing musician, and a great guy. So their guitar player was leaving, Gene Jaramillo, which is now Eugene Edwards. He plays guitar for Dwight Yoakum. And so when he left, he was going to do, I think, his own thing, and Russell asked me to play. So I started playing with them, and that's when a lot of cool stuff started happening, and doing some little tours and stuff. And then there was another band that I played with for a short amount of time. It's called Bourbon Jones, and I just played guitar in it for maybe a couple years. We'd play. There's a place down in Long Beach called the Blue Cafe. That was another kind of meeting place. That's Orange County. where everybody kind of went there. You bands, played there, and you'd meet up there. And I'd play with them on Sunday afternoons, which were very pleasant. And we had the drummer for Tom Waits band and James Harmon band, Stephen Hodges. And that's when I met Stephen. He's a great drummer. Sorry, he has a really big bass drum. He likes to play that's, kind of his signature. So I met him and I played with them for a while. And then kind of floated around, played with some other people more recently, another rockabilly band, local one, and then kind of a poppy punk band with some members of local hero punk bands from Orange County. And then now doing my own thing. So here I am.
Your musical experiences on the Los Angeles live scene has given you the opportunity to tour around the USA, where you've opened shows and you've shared the stage with several well-known artists. What are your memories from some of these live tours? And are there any standout moments? And did you manage to build any close relationships with some of those artists on the road?
Yeah, with Russell is when I got to do a lot of those kind of things. We played on a little tour with mini tour with Joe Strummer, which from the Clash. Clash was one of my highlights of my life, next to meeting and jamming with Prince. Those are the two that are way up there. But the Clash was always one of my favorite bands of all time, right up there. I've got several that are right up in that top echelon, and they're there for sure. So meeting him and watching him play, we'd do a set and he would come on later with the Mescaleros he was playing with. This was shortly before he passed away.
Yeah, they did some very good stuff. There's a track of theirs I absolutely adore called Coma Girl, about the Glastonbury Festival. But yeah, I do like some of his stuff.
Yeah.
After the Clash.
Johnny Appleseed is my favorite from everyone knows that one, but I think that one's really, really great. And so I get to he'd be playing, and I have some pictures of me. He'd be playing, and there's the risers that keep the crowd away, and then there's the stage, and that's where they have the press taking pictures and the bouncers, and I would just get right under him, and he'd be right above me, and I just watch him the whole time he was playing. And I got to meet him after and hang out with this for a short time on his little tour bus. And he was super nice. And actually, when that happened, on that day, he was extremely, extremely sick. And he'd been throwing up like all day. And people have been telling me that, oh, he's really sick. I wonder if he's going to play. And then he came out and he did an amazing show. You wouldn't even have known that he was sick. And then after, he signed autographs for people who came backstage to him for at least an hour. Didn't complain, nothing. Talked to people, everything. That was pretty amazing to see that. I thought that was quite a level of professionalism. And also, you had asked before too, with the bands I played with, if I learned anything, I have to kind of say with Russell, that's where I learned, just to be able to play whatever. You got to know what key you're in. Okay, it's in this key, it's this feel. We're coming in on the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go, and you got to figure out what's going on from there. So I kind of got really used to just figuring out things in the moment and trying to make things work and not fall too much. So that was something I kind of learned, and also just in general from playing with all these different bands, just I started to develop this, I think, a level of professionalism that I think is important. If you're being hired for something like doing session work or something, make sure that you're open to their suggestions, their vision. If you are like a hired gun, you're there to help them achieve something, especially if they're the ones paying for it. They need to be happy with it. So you need to kind of know your role and be able to admit mistakes if you make them and take responsibility for them. I think those are really big qualities. And show up, do a good job. And if you do, you'll get hired again. And if not, then you need to work on that.
I want to talk about next 2 huge iconic names in the music business, and 2 particular names that kind of made a big impression on my life. And one was Prince, who was fortunate enough to see about 2 years in England before he died. And I have to be honest, it's probably the best stadium show I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And the other one who made a huge impression on me was Chuck Berry, who I saw when I was 11, and I'm a huge fan of his music. But I wanted to ask about your memories of meeting with Prince and actually jamming with him on stage. I'd love to hear your story and recollection of him. And also I have to ask you about playing on the same bill as rock and roll icon Chuck Berry, who was obviously notorious for not rehearsing, for often not playing in the right keys, for not never having his guitar in tune, and obviously demanding money from the promoter up front in cash. What are your kind of recollections of those two performers? I'm interested to hear your memories and any stories you might have.
Well, yeah, if you're Chuck Berry, then you can play in any key you want. You don't have to be in the right key, and you can blame it on the other people, and you can make them all change to the key you're in and figure it out on the spot. And I think I have talked, I spoke to a friend, I can't remember who it was, but they played with Chuck Berry, and they said, oh yeah, you would play a song and then we would go and play it on stage, and it would be in a different key. And that sounds like an ulcer to me. Like, that sounds like a lot of stress. But if you're Chuck Berry, you can kind of do what you want, apparently. But yeah, as far as Prince, that was an interesting thing. I had gotten a call from, actually an email from a friend who at the time still does, but works for a big agency, music and artist representation agency, movie stars, everybody. And he just said, hey, actually, I think it was a forwarded email, and it said, hey, do you know, and these were the words that I read, do you know a hot girl who can play guitar? I need it for an artist, a guitar tech. And I wrote my friend back and I said, well, John, keep his name, but John, I play guitar, but I don't really fix them. And he wrote me back and said, well, it's for So he said, yeah, I think you want to do this. And I said, okay, that sounds good. So I I made a video for Prince, which was just like super surreal, because then I got in touch with his production company, Paisley Park. And they said, yeah, you need to make a video. He's going to watch it. It's like the weirdest thing.
No pressure there then.
I'm like, this is like really surreal. And so I made him a video. I'm like, okay, I just made a video for Prince. Now what do I do? So I sent it in and everything. And then I didn't hear anything for like a couple weeks. And I'm like, I guess Prince didn't like my video. Okay, well, that kind of sucks. I'm a little hurt, but whatever, he's got a lot going on. I guess I'm not what he's looking for. And then all of a sudden, I think it was in the middle of the afternoon, I just taken a shower and went to college or gym or something. And I got out and I checked my voicemail, and it said, hey, this is so-and-so from Paisley Park. So yeah, Prince wants you here now. So I hope you're on your way. So give me a call. And I'm like, what? And I call, and I'm like dripping just out of the shower. And I'm like, oh my God, I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello. And she's like, hey, it's Jamie. I'm like, yeah. And I said, Sheila, did you get my message? And I said, yeah. And she's all, did you know anything about this? And I said, no. And she said, yeah, I kind of figured that. She said, yeah, he's been watching your video all day. And then he just asked me, where's Jessica? So I had to get on the phone and get you here. I figured somebody else had called you, but then I thought probably not. So can you be here in an hour? And, I live probably, at the time it was from LA, at least an hour plus traffic. It was the middle of the afternoon, so there's no traffic. And so I just got out of the shower. I had no idea about this, but I will get ready as fast as I can. And I will try and get there as fast as I can. And I said, I'll try and be there, about an hour and a half. She said, oh, that's fine. And I said, well, what does he want? Does he want me to like do something? Dance? What am I doing here? And she said, oh, he's just probably going to want you to change the string or something. No biggie. I'm like, okay, great. So I had a little, kind of bag or like a case with some tools and stuff to fix a guitar, which I watched some stuff, how to kind of get things going. And some friends had told me things to do. So, I was a bit confident about it. And then so I get up there and, it was big gates that open and there's fountain, all these Escalades parked around when everybody was driving Escalades. So I go in and take the elevator up to the second level. And then the doors open and it's just this big purple thing with a gold print symbol. And I'm like, wow, this is really getting weird. And I turn to the left and it's this big ballroom and it's mirrored and it has like club, seating, but it's all velvet, like booths on one side. And he's playing with the band. And I just kind of look around and I see like the Jamie, the production lady from Paisley Park, and also his old guitar tech, because I actually went to her house and had spoken with her as well. So I knew her a little bit. So when I got there, I saw him and they're like, oh, come sit down. And then Prince looked at me and I waved at him. So what else are you going to do? You wave at Prince. And he just looked at me and he looked back at the band and just stopped the band. And it was this huge ballroom. And he just turns back around, and then he's got his guitar and he just starts walking towards me like this with this attitude. And I'm like, oh shit, what is going to happen now? I have no idea. And I'm a little scared. So I stand
I can
there.
imagine, yeah. It sounds quite intimidating, yeah.
Little bag and shit. And I just barely put my purse down. He walks over, he's like, you Jessica? I said, yeah. So I'm Prince. And I said, I know. Like, I don't know what. I know
who else would you be?
Who else would you be? I think I'm here to see you. You want me to come here? Okay, I'm here. And go, do you know how to play this song? And it was Roller Coaster, the roller coaster of love, say what? In the 70s. And they had been playing it when I walked in. I said, yeah, I know it. I've heard it, but I've never played it in my mind. I'm thinking I've heard it, but I've never played it. I could do that. So I go over there, and then he gets his old guitar tech to put a guitar on me. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm going to, pardon my French, I'm going to jam with Prince right now? Okay, fine. So then they plug me in, and then I start just trying to play a little bit, just so I can hear like what key they're in, because he's got his back turned towards me. And then he looks at me and he looks at the guitar and he's like, no, like, not yet, not yet. I'm like, okay. So I'm like trying to find the key, and then they're playing. And then all of a sudden he looks at the band and he just like, stop. And they break it down. And then he looks at me and he's like, go ahead and play. Let's hear what you got. And so I start playing my little hot blues licks. That's how I like them. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, yeah. And then he turns back around. And then we played Roller Coaster probably like 3 more times in a row. He just kept doing it over and over. And I was just playing behind him. And it was quite surreal. And then after that, jamming with him, then he brought his guitar over to me and he said, oh, this is not staying in tune. I'm like, oh, really? And I'm thinking, oh no, I don't know, because it's the Floyd Rose little tremolo system. And that was my first guitar. It had a Floyd Rose tremolo. And once those things go out of tune, if you break a string, the whole thing is out of tune. I personally think it's the worst system for a guitar, because what are you going to do? And that actually happened at the first time I ever played a show with a little band I had when I first started playing. I played somebody's backyard party by their pool in their cabana. And I was playing my first set and I was so nervous, the first song, and I got through it. I'm like, great, this is great. And I go to the second song and I go to do my solo. And I bend my bottom string and it just breaks. And then I'm like, oh, great. And then I go to play my chord, it's all because it's all out of tune and I cannot do anything. And I look at the band and they look at me like, what are you doing? And my friends were sitting there and I'm like, what's going on? And then I stop and I like tap the mic and I'm like, does anybody have a high E out there? And it was just crickets. And my friend was like, oh God. So it's a bad, in my opinion, tuning system. So he asked if I could fix it. I said, sure, I'll take a look at it. And he said, can you do it now? And I said, sure, why not? And then he turned around and went back to playing Roller Coaster for another like 2 more times. And I looked at his guitar tech and I said, what's wrong with the guitar? And he said, He was a very nice African-American man. And he said, man, there ain't nothing wrong with that guitar. I fixed that damn thing yesterday. And I'm like, okay, well, so it's fixed? He's like, oh, hell yeah, it's fixed. I'm like, well, what do I do? Should I? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, should I pretend like I'm fixing it? And he's like, whatever. So I just kind of looked at it and it sounded fine to me. And then he just kept playing for a while. And I put the guitar down, and because, you know, it sounded okay to me. And then he turned around and then he started walking towards me again. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen now? The first time he did this, I didn't know it was going to, I don't know what's happening now. So he starts walking towards me, and he's got the, you know, the telly, that butterscotch telly that he played in his Purple Rain videos and all that. He just takes it off and just throws it at me, and I grab it. And then he just starts doing all these like James Brown, good foot, and he's doing splits. And his backup singers are like, go ahead, Prince, go ahead, Prince, go. And like, I'm holding his guitar from the Purple Rain video, and he's just James Browning like right in front of my face. And the most funny thing to me, that it made it really hard to keep a straight face, because he had these shoes on, and I don't know if you remember, but the children used to have these shoes where they would walk and the back of them would light up as they would walk.
Yes. Yeah, you can still get them now, yeah.
Yeah, he had those on, and he was singing, and then he was doing the James Brown, and as he was singing and James Brown and it all around the ballroom, his shoes were lighting up, and I was biting my lips so bad because I wanted to laugh so much, because I was like, this is the most surreal thing like that I've ever been a part of. So then after he did his very impressive dance moves, he started doing them more towards, you know, these big doors that were open, like French doors, like huge French doors open onto this big lawn with a fountain and these flowing white light or white curtains that were going outside and little purple lights onto them. And he keeps doing the splits and doing this until he's out the door and gone. And then the band just goes crack, and they're stopped. And I look over, and like the drummer is putting his sticks away, bass players putting his, and I'm just standing there with the guitar. I'm like, what happened? Like, and I look at the drummer. I said, is that it? And he said, yeah, that's it. And I'm like, is it gone? And he's like, yeah, it's gone. I'm like, okay. And I said, what should I do now? I said, I don't know, do whatever you want. And I said, well, hell. And I look over, and Prince's, all the Prince's guitars are just lined up. I said, I want to play Prince's guitar. I said, why not? I'll play Prince's guitar. So I just pick them all up, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. This one, oh, it's a little better. And then I get the cloud one, you know, and I believe from the video I remember it most from is I think Diamonds and Pearls, or maybe Cream. That was the one that always I remember it from, and it was yellow at the time. And I picked it up and played it. The fretboard of that thing, it was like butter. I've never played a guitar that played that nice. It was like, it played itself. It was almost like, no, take your hands off. I'll do those hot licks for you. You don't have to do nothing. Just go like this. I'm gonna do it for you. I'll make your fingers sound good. I'll make you sound good. That's how good that thing played. It was unbelievable. So I sat and played that for a while, and I took a pick, and to start playing it, and I saw that it had its symbol on it and his name, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to take anything for Prince, but I need a pick right now. So I got a couple Prince picks. Thank you, Prince. But so then I was kind of done, and there's a bathroom, and I walked over to it on the end of the ballroom, and I went inside, and it was all decked out in purple and like gold, and washed my hands and dried my hands on the Prince hand towel because it was purple and had a big P on it. And then so I went over to the old guitar tech. We got in the elevator and started going down, and I said, so is that it? And he said, yeah. And I said, so the gig is, if he has a party at 3 a.m, I come over and I plug his guitar in. So that's the job. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. So actually, when I'd gone to Paisley Park, the production company, the lady who was doing the hiring, it was actually her house, and I think it was not Toluca Lake or something like that. When I left, there was one other girl coming in, and she looked pretty like not like rock star or anything, very plain looking girl, but the lady had told me it was between me and her. And consequently, I did not get a call back from Prince, but he just went on tour like probably 2 weeks, maybe a week after that. He went on a long tour. So maybe Prince didn't like me. Maybe he decided he didn't need a hot girl to plug in his guitar at 3 a.m. Maybe he took the other girl. I don't know. But I have to say it was one of the craziest experiences. And then now I get the very coveted pleasure to me to be able to say that I jammed with Prince out of his house in LA. So that's a long story in a nutshell. If you're still awake, that's the long.
From a strange, and it sounds a very surreal moment in your life, the experience of meeting Prince. We come back.
It was something that I really obviously enjoyed, and I really enjoyed how weird it was. That like made it even better. And I went up to his mic to sing into it because I'm like, I'll sing in Prince's mic. And really, he wasn't that much shorter when I talked to him. I mean, maybe his shoes had like a bit of lift, but where he had his mic was exactly where I would have it. And I'm about 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. So I don't think he was that short, but maybe the light up shoes gave him a little lift. Maybe that was it.
I want to come back and talk about the role of a session musician. And you've spoken earlier on about kind of learning so much as kind of like a hired hand and kind of the role that they bring to kind of session work. And I kind of wanted to ask you how you find studio work and the recording process, and how would you define the role of a session musician? And can you tell us about some of the recording projects you've worked on that you're kind of most proud of?
Yeah, as far as finding people, it's usually your friends. You know, I have friends who have studios, some bigger than others, some very small, and have said, hey, you know, I got this guy, he's a rock guy, he needs guitar on this, or you know, they need this. Come in and play. So you get the little recording, and then go in and you come in with an idea, and they're like, oh, can you do it more this way? And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll try this. And you keep doing things until you get something that they like. And I used to do auditions for Columbia Records too. And funny thing is, I met John Mayer right after his album came out. Body is a Wonderland was everywhere. And I auditioned for him. So I actually played with him on stage auditioning for him and doing that. So that came through Linda from Linda Stahlhut, one of my favorite people in the world. Great person. So a lot of times just opportunities came from people that you know, musicians or people who have studios and stuff like that. And doing recordings with the band that I was in, my old band, the people who like to set the drum kit on fire is Bus Stop Hurricanes. So we put out a little album, and that was my first kind of a recording experience, which was a lot of fun. And I remember one solo, they were like, oh, you're not getting it. You can do better. You can do better. You got more fire. Where's your fire? So that was my singer again, and so they got, I think, I don't know, it was not a stack or something, but it was something, and they made me stand way on top of it, because when I'd play live shows, usually, and I still tend to do it, I get up on things, bars, tables, whatever. My singer would like to put me on his shoulders and do things like that. So acrobatics were in my forte and still kind of are. So they said, I know what the problem is. You're not doing what you do live, because when you play live, you're up on things. Let's get you up on something. Where can we put you? I'm like, no. And so there was like a high, I think it was a Marshall Stagger or something, like furniture, and they put me way up there. And so I play it, and then they got down below me, and they're like, yeah, and they're like screaming at me and stuff. So it was kind of fun and interesting. But yeah, so just doing local things for local bands. And what I'm most excited about is doing my own album, which I'm working on now. And because I've always played in other bands. I've always been the guitar player, and to a certain extent, more a part of bands than others. Like my first band, that was a real band, like everybody contributed, and I wrote a lot of the music and collaborated with a lot of music, so we all did that. So, and then in other bands it was more add your part kind of thing. So there's been different levels of it, but I've always been a the guitar player in the band. So having my own thing where it's my own kind of idea or vision and songs, and then singing them as well, which I never did. You know, I did some backup singing with Russell, and I would sing one song, or no, two songs. We did two Everly Brothers songs, which I love Everly. So we did that. We did Bye Bye Love and Like Strangers, which I really like the harmony on that one. And then actually a third song, so I'd sing Blondie, because that was another thing I really liked about Russell, is that he wasn't straight rockabilly. You know, I mean, there's a lot of bands, it's just, you know, you got to be rockabilly. If you play something different, we don't like you. If you don't dress like we don't fit. But Russell was just always in his overalls, and he played what he wanted. He played Echo and the Bunnymen, you know, I can't think of the name of it, The Killing Moon, which I love that song. He did Message to You, Rudy by the Specials. Specials are amazing. Roddy Byers, the guitar player, friend of mine, super sweet guy, love it. So he did all stuff like that. So when I told him I grew up listening to K-rock music, my brother was really into mod and the Jam, which I love the Jam, and the Clash, and then he was into like Depeche Mode. My sister was huge into music too, so they both were really into music. She was into The Cure and a lot of more goth stuff, and Susie and the Banshees, all that stuff. So I love all that stuff, and I would, go check out shows and in those veins. My first show was Depeche Mode, interesting enough, but I think they're a great band. But yeah, so doing my own thing has been something that is really big for me. And so singing with Russell, I'd sing Blondie, Dreaming, and everybody would seem to love that. Like the rockabilly kids, they were okay with that, so that was all right. So that was my first kind of forte into singing. And people would ask me to sing, and I was like, no, because I didn't like my voice. But so then getting into playing with the other rockabilly band that I played with more recently, JP McDermott, who plays around town and is a really great artist. I would sing some songs with him and other Everly Brothers. And then with the power kind of punk band, Greg Antista and the Lonely Streets, I'd sing Blondie with them, and then another Blondie song as well, and then do harmony. So that's when I started getting more into singing, which I always loved. I just never really did it on stage because I didn't really feel very confident in it. So doing my own thing has been something that I'm really excited about doing, and having a sort of vision. It's not, a lot of the songs on there are kind of a mix of things that I really like, because I think, sticking to kind of one genre, it doesn't really, it's like thinking that a person has only one side to them. There's so many sides to you. You're an interviewer. I'm sure you do other things. Maybe you like to, swim or cycle or whatever. There's different components to everybody, and there's different components to our music too. I'm sure you don't just solely listen to one type of music. There are people out there who do, and that's fine. But for me, I feel like it's a accumulation of all the things that have influenced me, and certain songs reflect that. And I like that. I like diversity. Like with Russell, he did things that weren't conventional. He did things he liked and other things. So that's kind of where I like to kind of come from as far as an artist.
From versatility and the recording process, and obviously recording your own material that you're doing currently, I want to come on now and talk about guitars. And I want to ask you, how did the endorsement from Gretsch guitars happen? And what for you is so special about Gretsch, and what guitar models do you own, and which ones are your preference? And can you kind of describe your relationship with the company?
Well, I got with Gretsch. A friend of mine saw me play with the punk band that I was playing with. And he was talking to me, and I was playing my Gretsch at the time. It was actually given to me by a friend. It was a 5120 Gretsch. It was black satin. And I had been studying French in Paris for a very short semester, and so I was kind of living there for a short time. And a friend of mine wanted to come visit and didn't really have the money for the ticket. So after, he said to me, well, can't really pay you back for that, but do you want my Gretsch? I'm not playing it. I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. So I took it and I was like, this sounds pretty great. It looks super cool. I dig it. So I like it. So I was playing that, and he saw me, my friend Tony, saw me play at this place in Tarzana, Maui Sugar Mill, which a lot of people go there. That's another kind of local hotspot that's going on up towards LA. And he said, hey, are you with Gretch? And I said, no. And he said, would you like to be? So yeah, that sounds good. And he's like, well, let's make it happen then. And I'm like, all right. So that's how that happened. And I started talking with Joe Carducci, who was the A&R guy who's now retired, very beloved. Everybody knows Joe. Everybody loves Joe. He's a great guy. And he said, yeah, you sound like the perfect fit for Gretch. You sound like exactly what we're looking for. You know, we're kind of looking for somebody a little bit different than what we usually get. And you check all the boxes. So it's been a very great ride since getting with them. And the company, I really like the company a lot. And I'd have to say that's one of my favorite things about it, because they treat their artists like kind of like family, you know, and especially other artists, what we call, you know, like Bruz, I call him Gretsch brother. And then there's not very many Gretsch women artists. I mean, there are some out there, but I don't think they get featured as much. But there are some that I know that are featured that, you know, I've seen in the little newsletters and stuff. And, you know, it's always Gretsch brother or Gretsch sister. And the owners are super nice. Dinah, the wife of Fred Gretsch, and they're both CEOs, I think, of the company. She's amazing. I've had, you know, conversations with her on the phone, and she's just, you know, she's a tough woman. And in the music business, being a woman and doing what you're doing, and I think she's one of the only female CEOs in music for like musical instruments, and to be doing what she does and being a woman, that's, you know, that's a tall order. So. But as far as the company, I really enjoy the family kind of feel that you get with Gretsch. That's what I get from it. So that's something that's important to me. I like to feel that, you know, you're part of something. And other companies, you know, they do have great guitars, and I still play. I have a 62 reissue Fender Strat that I've had forever. I still play that. I've got, you know, Down Electro reissue U2 guitar that I got from a very good friend of mine, Steve Sost. He's a local legend around town in Orange County, and he worked on Steve Ray Vaughan guitars and stuff, did a bunch of stuff. I have a guitar from him, so I play a lot of different ones, but my Gretsch, they're my favorite, especially my little gold one here. This is a Goldie. I don't name guitars, but the Sparkle Jet. And this one is my favorite because it just, whatever you play on it just works. It just sounds good, and you can play anything. I think a lot of people have a misconception that you can only play like a certain genre of music on Gretsch, and I kind of get why they get that idea, because so many people seem to be put out that do play, you know, like genres like roots, rockabilly, and all that. And I love all that stuff, but, you know, you can play anything on this guitar. It's not just because it's associated with that so closely. It's, you know, it's the musician, and whatever comes through your fingers is going to dictate, you know, how it sounds. You know, if I play twangy, it's going to sound twangy, doesn't, you know, matter what guitar I'm playing. So this one just really fits, and it looks beautiful, and it sparkles. So you're a girl, you like sparkles a little bit. You like to sparkle, and I like gold. My old singer actually used to tell me, oh, you know, we got to get you a gold guitar, because that's when I got the 62 reissue. It's Shoreline Gold. We got to get you a gold guitar. You're going to be the girl with the golden guitar. So I guess I'm still carrying that over. So this one, it's a 62 or 6129, 6129 T. T is for tremolo. And duo jet, but sparkle jet because it sparkles. And then we got our little, not so little, but hollow body 5420, which is very nice, orangey, and it plays great. It's got a great sound to it. And then I also have a historic series Jumbo Sierra acoustic. It's yellow. It's a big acoustic, and it sounds great. I enjoy that too. I play it all the time. I would love, actually, for me, the Jets. That body just suits me better. I love hollow bodies too. The only thing I mean, not the only thing, but the one guitar hollow body I would love, and you were talking about earlier, Eddie Cochran, is the Eddie Cochran model. That
Yeah,
one,
the signature model, yeah, that they brought out maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, it's a beauty.
yeah,
Yeah.
a friend of mine has one and let me play it at a show. Oh, and that thing, I said that it played like butter as well. The fretboard was just amazing, and that P90 in there. I would love to get an Eddie Cochran signature hollow body. And then just for me, the Penguins. You know, I played White Falcons and I love them, but most of them are too big. A friend of mine, another Gretsch, excuse me, endorsed artist, or an artist, Buddy Doogie. He plays in a rockabilly band, and he was kind enough to let me borrow his White Falcon for a photo shoot, and it was beautiful. Really big though. I mean, like super big. I was like, this thing is really big. Are they all this big? And I had gone to the Gretsch custom shop a couple months ago, and they can make them any size you want, but this thing was big. But I know that my Duo Jet, great. It's a great size. So a Penguin is something I'd really love to get. You know, like a Steven Stern Masterbuilt Penguin, a blue one with gold. That's kind of my jam. So I would go with that.
From our little discussion of Gretsch and some of the beautiful guitars that you've just showed us, and the 6120 just resonates with me so much. But you mentioned about the difficulty of a woman working in the music business, and I kind of wanted to pick up on that, because music's a very difficult business to earn a comfortable living. But how difficult is it for a female musician to earn a living in a very, I would say, male-dominated industry? And are there any female role models that you look up to?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult being a woman playing in which for guitar is still a very male-dominated area. I've been lucky enough to play with mostly male musicians who are really, really nice guys. They treat you with respect. There's no problem. You know, they look at you as another musician, which I tend to look at people that way too. When I see a person, I don't see, what's really going on the outside. It's who you are inside. And the people that I've known are all kind of that way. And the bands I've played with, the guys were always like that. And they were always respectful too. They always would help with gear and stuff, which I appreciate, because sometimes it can be heavy. I can carry my own stuff, but it's nice when they do offer. So, but they've always been respectful and treat me just like another musician. There hasn't been a problem. But there are circles out there where it's still a boys' club, and those are kind of areas that I stay away from and tend to not really hang around in those circles. And it's kind of, in this day and age, you would think that things would change, but those stereotypes are still kind of out there. And even people who come to see me, guys who come to see me, they'll say, hey, you were amazing, you were awesome. When you started playing, I thought there's no way she can play it. And then when you play it, I was just blown away that you could actually play. And it's like, thanks, I guess, and they're trying to give you a compliment, but in a way it's, I can understand, because still to this day, you don't see a lot of women who can actually play more than strumming a couple chords, maybe playing a little solo, if that. You just don't see it. So, most people, and generally, I guess, guys, because it's still mostly guys who play guitar or are featured playing guitar, they're like shocked because they don't see it. You see a million women playing, of any age, playing piano, playing cello. These are all like singing. Oh, of course she's singing. Of course she can.
Like you say, the kind of key denominator is you normally see maybe a woman singer-songwriter, like, for example, someone like a Susan Vega or a Joni Mitchell, who play sort of lead and rhythm guitar and sort of write their own songs, rather than, like you say, a lead female guitarist. I suppose Bonnie Raitt kind of comes to mind as, she's an incredible slide guitarist. But yeah, I kind of know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, it's still a stigma, and it will continue to be that way and be problematic, and it makes it hard, because there are some, people in maybe clubs or promoters that, they're not, for whatever reason, looking for that, or maybe it's other reasons, but you never really know what's going on, but you can sometimes feel that, okay, this feels like it's the boys are doing their thing, and they don't really want somebody around that's not in their little boys club. And that's fine. That's not an energy I want to be around, because the musicians that I know and the ones that I've been around aren't like that. It's like, hey, let's play. You're awesome, and I love what you're doing. Oh, I love what you're doing, and let's do something. Let's make music. Let's do something that's great, and let's have fun. And that's the people I've been fortunate to be around, and I'm still around, and I'm grateful to have that. I know there's a lot of women who don't get that experience and get a lot of things said to them that are really negative. And luckily I've had, decent people around me, and people who see you as a musician, as I see other people as well. And you mentioned Bonnie Raitt. She was never like an icon to me, but I very much respect her, and I very much think she's an amazing player. She's a great slide player. She has a lot of soul. So for me, it really doesn't matter what you are, what you're doing. If you play with soul, that's the key to everything. And her singing, she's an amazing singer, and she has a great stage presence. So it seems to be, when you're a female musician, it's almost like, and I think it's probably this way from other people I've talked to who do other professions, who work in the movie business and other professions, that you almost have to be more, you have to be better than just average. You have to do other things, because it's not enough. Like Bonnie Raitt is a great singer. She's a great, guitar player. She's a great musician. So she's got all these things she's doing. You have to be able to do kind of all these things. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, she's okay. Like if you're not like outstanding, then you're just, and that puts a lot of pressure on you. It makes it hard, and it makes it hard to kind of navigate your way through the musical universe. And it is a tough living to get through, but you do your best. But yeah, Bonnie Raitt, I respect her a lot. I think she's awesome. Growing up, I really loved Chrissie Hynde, just for her attitude.
Chrissie Hynde's great. And I still kind of think that the Pretenders in this country, in the UK, I still think they're a little bit underrated in my liking. And I thought that original lineup, and sadly, obviously, the lead guitarist and the bassist died very young, but I thought that was they were just a seminal great band. I thought that original lineup. Yeah.
And for sure her, you can see that they don't think, oh, she's the woman who's playing. They're a band. They're just musicians. Let's get together and play. You can feel that, and that's a synergy that I really appreciate, because I think that's music, and I think that's life. Life and music, it's just a lot of the same principles. We're all here, we're all going to end up the same way, so why put boundaries and labels on things? If you enjoy people, if you enjoy what you're doing, then have a good time doing it. Don't make things difficult or hard, harder than they should be. But she was great because, she had attitude, which I really love, and she could play, she played rhythm. She wasn't really playing the leads, but she very musical from her heart. And James Honeyman Scott, the guitar player, he's one of my favorite guitar players. He's amazing. Like Kid, that song, I do that as a cover sometimes, and his guitar part is beautiful. It's more simple, but then some parts are not, but it's melodic, and that's what I really like, is melodic playing. And I enjoy her just being a strong woman. So seeing somebody who can stand their ground in front of a band, a bunch of guys, and not have a problem with that. Debbie Harry, Blondie, even though she doesn't play a guitar, she's an amazing singer, and I think a great amazing front woman. So that's somebody I always looked up to her as well. And as far as like more recent guitar players, there's like really great female guitar players out there. Like if you go on Instagram and stuff, you'll find women who are just phenomenal players, really great. And, you know, you don't hear about them, you don't see them so much. I'm still not sure why that is, but there's people like Sue Foley. She plays blues. She's been around Jimmy Vaughn and that whole scene and kind of cut her teeth with that. I like her playing as well. So there's a lot of great women out there. It's just they don't seem to get the spotlight for some reason, and I think that really needs to change.
Jessica, I wanted to ask you one final question, and then we move on to the ultimate part of your take, the final 13 quickfire questions. But before we come on to those, I wanted to ask you about the future, and I wanted to ask you about any long-term musical aims and ambitions that you might have. And then secondly, I wanted to ask you, what would be your advice to any young musicians wanting to work professionally in the industry and play guitar to an advanced level?
As far as future ambitions, right now is getting my album done and getting that out to people and having it for people to hear. And that's one thing I like about recording, being in the studio live. You know, it's spontaneous. Go, whatever happens. You gotta. It's act and react, which is interesting. And it's also a lot of other stressors. It's, you know, if it's your band now, for me, you have to think about singing. You got to remember the lyrics, you got to play good enough and not die while you're playing, because it's a lot of, you know, just sweating. You don't realize how much workout it is. I mean, you watch somebody, if you don't actually play music, you don't realize. It's just, you're just dripping. And then, you know, meeting and greeting people who come to support you, making time for friends, making sure the band's okay and talking to them, and then interacting with them while you play, and all the things you got to do, setting up your equipment. It's all these things. And then now you got to perform and do a good job and react to whatever things happen. So in the studio, it's nice where you can do a song and you can keep doing the takes until you get it right, until it gets that feeling, it gets that soul where you go, yeah, that sounds right. We're all kind of on the same page. And for me, I feel music is kind of, it's a meditation. It's musical meditation, especially if you're playing with good players that you have a good synergy with. You feel it. It's almost like something locks, and you really feel that you're just in sync. You're in the right place together. So when you get a good take, and then you can work on something and work on the details until it sounds right, and you know, just getting things to sound a certain way that you hear in your head is a fulfilling thing. And I think it's kind of like making a painting. You know, all these different, you have your musicians who have their different brush strokes they're going to add, your recording engineer who's going to record it with the right mics and then mix it and master it, put on certain reverbs, effects that he knows are going to make it sound good, mix it on, you know, the levels right, make everything kind of come together. And then it's almost like, you know, a Seurat painting where you look up really close and it's all these dots, but when you come back, you know, hopefully you can see a pretty clear picture from it. But for me, that's my focus right now, is getting that out, and just trying to go somewhere from that and hopefully play some bigger shows and some bigger festivals and stuff. Maybe get out to your way, out to London and over to England and do some stuff there and do some touring and just see what I can kind of do with this album. And also, I guess my advice for anybody coming into music is just first and foremost is practice. It's, you know, practice, just honing your craft, which is kind of a cliche, but it's true. You know, when you have parts that, or parts of your playing or your ability that you feel are not as strong, those are the things that you need to work on, so you don't have those kind of holes or those gaps. And you're always going to be learning. We're always trying to get better. You're never going to be done with that. You're never going to be the best. Okay, I'm the best I can be right now. It's never going to happen. There's always somebody better than you. You're always trying to get better. But if you can work on the things, your deficiencies, and improve them, then that will help you a lot. Like, say for instance, if you're, you know, going to do a studio session and you're hired to do that, and maybe you don't take criticism very well, or, you know, they tell you, oh, you're not playing that right, or these notes don't go with this song, you have to be able to be, okay, I hear that, and I'll do what needs to be done so things sound right. Otherwise, you're not going to be doing much studio work. So just being able to be flexible and going out and making things happen, because most of the time it's not going to come to you. I think it does start to come to you if you're on the right track. I kind of believe in the universe a bit, sending you where you need to go. So if you're going the right way, certain things will kind of open, but then you need to kind of open them yourself. You have to start and go and do things. I started writing these songs. I got a band together, which I love the people in the band. Got a place to record, and now making it happen. And then other things start coming to you as you're doing that. So you kind of have to self-start it and make yourself do things and not wait for things to come to you. And it's all about initiative, passion, and drive, which any one of those things can falter and be lower. Sometimes others are higher, but initially you have to have that passion inside you that drives you to keep doing it, even when things get bad or setbacks happen, because they will happen all the time. So that'll give you, the strength to keep going and follow your dreams and hopefully get to somewhere that you're happy with.
Jessica Kaczmarek, this is the final questions. We ask all Your Take guests these exact same questions, really to find out maybe things we didn't know about you, things you like to do outside of music, hobbies, interests, maybe just things you like to do to relax. So here's the quick fire questions. No need to think about these in any detail. Here we go, Jessica. Number one, what would you say is your favorite pastime?
Favorite pastime, probably just watching a good documentary or a movie, anything foreign, anything French, just relaxing and, just taking in something that's interesting to watch, or maybe something kind of that I can learn about, and taking it easy. Just for an easy answer, I'd say relaxing with some good entertainment.
That leads on nicely to the next one. What would you say is your favorite film and why?
Film, that's kind of hard to narrow down. I've got a couple. I can't just say one, but I love Amelie. That's a French film. That one, the music is great. Jan Tierensen is a piano player, the composer for that. I have other films that I like for different reasons. Trading Places, just because it's a really funny movie. Princess Bride, kind of campy but sweet. There's a movie called The Fountain that came out in the early 2000s, Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. And that movie is very cerebral and very weird, and talking about different past lives of two people coming together through a queen living through that age and modern times to a future time. And the music is really great. It's by Clint Mansell, and I really enjoy his compositions. As you know, I've done music for documentary, so I really enjoy composing music and listening to what other composers do as well. So I can't give you one. I'll give you those several choices for you.
Some interesting choices there, and The Princess Bride. I've seen it many times. It's a beautiful film. Yeah, it's so the writing, William Goldman's writing, I think is superb, and I love Mandy Patinkin's performance as the Spanish. Is it in Montoya, isn't it? Like Ennio Montoya, yeah. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Exactly, and I love the Fezzik. I don't remember the actual actor's name, but the short man who is the boss of all of them. When he sits down with the masked man, I don't. God, I've seen it so many times, but I'm blanking on the name. Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie Ellis. Yeah,
and he was Wesley.
Yeah, that was a good impression.
When they're sitting together and they're doing the challenge of the wits with the drink, and I forget what Fezzik. I think it was Fezzik. His name. He said something like, it was just really ironic what he said. They were talking about something, and then he throws in something really weird to kind of throw him off the scent of which one had the poison in it. But that dialogue for that scene usually makes me laugh.
Yeah, he was in a lot of Woody Allen films. Wallace Shawn is his name, the
Oh, okay.
actor. Yeah. We go from films to novels. Who would you say is your favorite novelist?
I don't know if I have a favorite. Hermann Hesse is German author. Siddhartha, The Life of Buddha, is one of my favorite books. When I was younger, I liked poetry a lot, so I read a lot of Wordsworth and Robert Frost. Camus, I believe, The Stranger. Voltaire. He also, I can't think of the name right now, and it is one of my favorite books. It's about a journey to the road to El Dorado. I don't know if you've read much of Voltaire. It's an amazingly funny, really funny in a like almost sadistic, like wow, that's messed up way. The tale that he tells. I'm blanking on the name right. Oh, it's Candide. Candide. So Voltaire, Candide. That's probably one of my favorite books. That one is a wicked little ride. You should definitely read it if you haven't.
Jessica, if you could have had a different profession outside of music, what would it have been?
Probably a travel writer, because I love to travel and I love food. I love good food. There's nothing better than a good meal, a nice glass of wine, and being someplace exotic or someplace far away and exploring adventure. I would love to be a travel writer or a psychologist, but I'd probably get, it'd probably be too much for me to hear people's problems and not be able to help them. It's not your job to fix them, but I think hearing them all the time, it would be too much for me because I empathize a lot with people. So it's hard for me to see people in pain. So probably not a psychologist. I guess I'd probably, even though I do have a degree in psychology, but I can do it if I would need to. But yeah, travel writer, I guess that would probably be the more happy option.
Who in life would you say has been your greatest inspiration?
My mother, she's the reason why I do everything. She's the reason why I play music. She's the reason why I'm here. She's the reason why I'm still here. My mother.
Is she still alive, your mum?
I lost her recently, and yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's the way it goes.
We go from inspirations in life next to newspapers. Do you read a newspaper, and if so, which one?
I generally, since we've had a certain president, I stay away from the news pretty much as I can. I don't really read a newspaper. I mean, if anything, really what I do watch and listen to is PBS. It's public broadcasting here. It's not a bunch of commercials. It's not paid by big corporations. So it's generally a more neutral news source. So a lot of PBS, NPR, National Public Radio, things like that. So
you mentioned your love of food, and you said there's nothing better than a good meal and a glass of wine. But what would you choose as your favorite food?
I couldn't choose. How can you choose when you love food? I love Italian food. I love French food. But if I'm going to choose a favorite food, I guess it's going to be cheese, even though it's not good for my body because, it makes you pretty fat. But I love a good cheese. So I used to like to say a day without cheese is a day not worth living. And we're talking about some good cheese, like a good Camembert, a good Brie. I like the soft cheeses, even like a nice Parmigiano Reggiano. A little bit of vino and you got yourself a good night.
Talking next about cultural icons, most people struggle on this one. Who would you choose as your favorite cultural icon? It could be maybe a religious leader, a political figure, an inventor, maybe somebody who's changed the course of history.
I kind of go between two of them. I'm Gandhi and Mother Teresa. I think anybody who's actively trying to change the world for the better and trying to make the world a better place is somebody that I respect a lot.
We now come on to curse words. What would you say is your favorite curse word and why?
I don't know if it's technically a curse. It is a curse word, but then it's pluralized. I like to say shits a lot. Like, I don't know why, but I pluralize my curse words. So I say shits a lot. And sweet baby Jesus, I don't know if that qualifies, but I tend to say that one a good amount too. It's like, I don't know, kind of PG.
A moment ago, you said about your love of traveling. You've been to so many places. You like to go away. But what would you say is your favorite place or holiday destination?
Yeah, that's a hard one to narrow down to. It'd be definitely, I got to give you a couple. It's Hawaii and Paris. I love Paris.
Paris is beautiful. Nowhere
It's
like it.
beautiful in the springtime, in the fall. You know the song.
This is a tricky one to ask you because you've cited so many musical influences over the course of this interview, but who would you say is your favorite music artist and what is your favorite album?
I don't think I can narrow it down. Again, it would be, I got a couple big ones, and Elvis, Jimi Hendrix. I really love Ray LaMontagne. I love him. I love the way he sings. He's so just, his voice is so honest. You can feel kind of every note. I love his first album. His first album is really great. There's other artists that I like for different reasons too. Like, I'm not a huge, but if I'm thinking about what really moves me, I like Alison Krauss a lot, like her voice, but I wouldn't say I'm like a huge follower of her, but just anybody who's really you can listen to them. And Norah Jones, I'm going to give you some Norah Jones because I listen to that lady, and you can listen to her read the phone book and it's going to sound amazing. Like, her voice is just, it's so soothing. It's like some whiskey going down. I'll take anything by Norah Jones. I like a lot of different stuff from different parts of my life. If you would have asked me younger, I would have said, oh, Clash, maybe Depeche Mode or something like that, but teenage years would be Hendrix and, people like that. And so it varies, but consistently, I'm a big fan of Elvis.
Do you have a favorite, all-time favorite album, something you maybe go back to regularly and play, or maybe from a moment in your life?
Actually, I'd have to throw in one more. It's Everly Brothers. So they have a compilation. It's Heartaches and Harmonies, which totally describes them to a T. And my mom loved them. She used to play them when I was a kid, and we'd sing them. We'd do duets together, and her mom used to play them. And so it's kind of it's a family thing to me. So that one really hits me. Really, their singing just can make me cry.
I agree with you, Don and Phil Everly. I saw them a couple of times as a very young boy. I saw them twice. And Temptation is still one of my all-time favorite singles. I absolutely adore that record.
Yeah, my mom liked that one a lot too.
The production on it, I think, is just incredible. What would you say is your greatest achievement to date?
Just still being here, I think. Just being alive. I mean, really, I think it's such, this life is such a strange journey. Every day is just, you never know what's going to happen, and the things we go through in life. And I think also taking care of, for me, a relative very dear to me who's going through the fight of their life. That was something for me to be there and be able to help get them through that, I think, is something that's very, very deep in my heart. So I would say those two kind of things. I don't really think about life in thoughts of like, oh, I've got a new whatever, or I did this really big thing, or I climbed this very tall mountain. Those things don't really resonate to me as like a big achievement. I mean, a lot of people can do it, a lot of people can't do those things, play guitar, or play this, or be really good at a sport or something. To me, it's it's kind of more the simple things, getting through the life challenges that come at you, being there for somebody when they need it the most. So I'd have to say those things resonate the most with me.
And then Jessica Kaczmarek, the final question: how do you wish to be remembered?
Yeah, though I don't really like that question so much because I think I'm still kind of young. I'm pretty young. I'm not quite there yet. So maybe ask me in like another 15 years and I'll have an answer for it. Because I feel like I'm still in this life. So I don't want to be thinking about remembering things yet. Keep going forward and see where we end up.
We can indeed ask you that maybe in another 15 years, but I'll thank you kindly for sharing your musical journey. It's been a really interesting interview, conversation. I've really enjoyed it, especially some of the stories you've told us about life on the road, playing, performing, session work, your encounter with Prince. That was interesting. The people you've played with, recording the latest album. Finally, how do we listen to more of your music, find out more about yourself via sort of social media and YouTube and so on?
Well, you can go, the easiest way is go to my website, which is www, and then my name, Jessica Kaczmarek, K-A, C as in cat, Z as in zebra, MAREK.com. It's not the easiest name to spell, but if you just put in Jessica and then K-A-C, you're going to probably find me. So that has all my information, show dates, album release info, and all that good stuff. And social media, Facebook, my same name, and Instagram, my same name as well. So that's where you can find out what I'm doing and where I'm getting around to. If you're in the Southern California area, I've got some shows up. We'll be playing in Irvine, a place called Hangar 24 in July. And then also in July, I believe July 6th, there's out in Palm Springs, there's a blues kind of festival going out there, the Desert Blues Festival. And it's at Agua Caliente Casino. And we're playing there, I believe, July 6th, so that'll be nice. And then some other places around town later in the year. Muckenthaler Cultural Museum, they put on a summer concert series, so I'll be there September 1st. And so that's where you can get my information. And also YouTube, check out my YouTube, check out my videos. It's also on my website, but check out the YouTube channel, so like and subscribe.
Thank you kindly once again for giving up your time to share your story and be a guest and be interviewed by myself for your take. And loving the Gretsch guitars, and I've really enjoyed watching your videos on YouTube, and it was always my goal in life to buy a Gretsch. I do own one now, but I do wish Jessica I could play a Gretsch as well as you do, because my playing is pretty dire. So yeah, it's been lovely seeing your videos and some of your finger picking and your lead work and your breaks. It's incredible to watch. So yeah.
I also teach guitar as well. So if you ever need some lessons, anybody needs some lessons, you go to my website. I can help you out. What kind of guitar did you get? What model, Gretch?
I'm not sure what model. It's not a 6120. It's more of the cheaper range. And I have a Gibson as well.
Cool.
Yeah, but
Is it a hollow body or is dual jet? What do you got?
But I'm no good at playing them. But thanks again, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking with you. So thanks for taking the time with me. I appreciate it. Thank you, James.
Thank you.